Welcome back into the Daily Dose. I'm Jeff Hansen. The show's brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com and by CougarSportsInsider.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Appreciate you guys who continue to come back each and every day and watch the show. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share, fuel the algorithm. Appreciate you guys helping me out, fueling the algorithm so that this platform can grow here on YouTube. Y'all are the best. Your support is fantastic. I couldn't do it without you guys, so thank you so much. BYU did a pretty darn good job containing KJ Jefferson last week against Arkansas. He put up numbers. I mean, he still had a good day. Completed better than 68% of his passes, threw for 247 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And he also added 20 more yards on the ground. That's a good day for most quarterbacks, but if you're the defense and KJ Jefferson is the quarterback you're playing, you feel pretty darn good about that output. That was a pedestrian game by Jefferson standards. I mean, Jefferson is fantastic, one of the best in the country, and BYU kept him to 7 yards per passing attempt. I mean, that's not the end of the world. So kudos to the BYU defense. They have another tough task this week, maybe even a tougher task in defending Kansas quarterback Jalen Daniels. A lot of similarities between Jefferson and Daniels, but some very important differences that make Daniels a completely different threat than what Jefferson is. And BYU is going to have to adjust how they play these two quarterbacks. With Jefferson, the name of the game was tackling. You tackle well, get home, tackle well, get home, tackle well. Because Jefferson, while mobile, he wasn't that quick, shifty guy that Daniels is. He's a guy who breaks a ton of tackles, and when you think you have him sacked, all of a sudden he busts a 15-yard run. That's who KJ Jefferson is. But Jalen Daniels is different. I mean, Jalen Daniels is the kind of guy that will sit back in the pocket while BYU plays man coverage, and before you know it, he's tucked and run, and he's 20 yards down the field because he's electric and fast and quick. He's a dynamic quarterback. He can also throw the ball exceptionally well. So there's no, you can't just stack the box and sit 8 guys there and say, hey, beat us, Jalen Daniels, with your arm. We dare you, because he will. He's got a pretty darn good arm as well. So how is BYU going to do this? I don't know how BYU is going to do this. I am not Jay Hill. I'm not a defensive coordinator, but I've got some ideas of who needs to step up and who are going to be the most important players on BYU's defense this weekend if BYU is going to continue their winning streak, which they've now won 7 games in a row. If they're going to continue their winning streak, extend it to 8, get their first Big 12 win, and stay undefeated in 2023, I think that we're going to see some sort of combination of the following. I don't know that BYU will sit in a quarterback spy all game long, but they've got too many linebackers who are too fast and too quick to not spy on occasion. I love Max Tooley as a quarterback spy. He's done that before in his career. He's got the instincts that he knows when to break, knows when to stay home. He does a very good job in that spy role. And I think AJ Vongphachanh is right there with him. He's very similar in terms of how quick he is, how quick he's able to read and diagnose a play. He knows when to go and get the quarterback and when to sit back and sit in coverage. I think those two could play a huge role in sitting back and spying Jalen Daniels and trying to contain him in the pocket a little bit more. I also think that we saw maybe the biggest thing that we saw from Arkansas is BYU did really, really well on the edges. And these are important players going into Saturday. They're going to play a huge role in BYU keeping Jalen Daniels in the pocket. Tyler Batty we know about, but Isaiah Banya, he had his best game as a Cougar. He's done a fantastic job all year long of setting the edge, and he was able to get home a couple of times as well against KJ Jefferson. He's going to be critical against Kansas. Blake Mangelson, wow, what a surprise he has been all season long. He's been one of the best and most effective defensive linemen on BYU's roster. A combination of those three is going to be critical. What Jalen Daniels likes to do, and we saw this against Nevada, Jalen Daniels will keep going back in the pocket. He doesn't like to step up in the pocket as much. It's not his strong suit. He goes backwards. So these edges are going to have to contain all game long, because as soon as those edges collapse, if Jalen Daniels backs up far enough, he's fast enough that he just spins out of the pocket and the edges have collapsed and he's gone. So edge contain is going to be critically important. Fortunately, I think BYU has seen that Batty, Banya, and Mangelson are up for that task. Those guys are going to be absolutely crucial in this game for the Cougars. BYU is going to have to disguise everything, because Daniels, he can beat you with his arm. There's no question about it. He's a very, very, very good passer. If BYU just says, hey, we dare you to throw it over us, he'll throw it over the top. He'll beat you. He's that good with his arm as well. So BYU is going to have to get creative. You're going to see Eddie Heckard, part of helping contain the edge, but you're going to see Eddie Heckard, Camden Garrett. I think we're going to see a lot of cornerback blitzes. I think you're going to see a lot of blitzes, not up the middle where they've come, not a lot of stunting in the middle like we've seen from BYU a little bit this year. I think you're going to see a lot of edge rushing. You're going to see a lot of creative blitzes where BYU looks like they're hanging out in coverage, but then they come where it's tough to identify who's coming and who's not. I think that's the name of the game for BYU this week. If they aren't able to do that, then I think Jalen Daniels is good enough at buying time and good enough at keeping his eyes downfield that he could pick this BYU secondary apart, especially with the questions at the safety spot. And then finally, I think this is a huge game for Caden Haws. And really, you could throw Nisa Mahe, these other nose tackles into the mix. But I think Caden Haws is a very, very important player for BYU this week. I don't expect him to be shooting gaps, but this is a situation with Jalen Daniels where I think all of the experience under Elisa Tuiaki's two-gapping defensive line scheme will really come to benefit BYU. It's tough to switch from a gap shooting scheme to a gap filling scheme over, from week to week overnight. That's hard to do. But Caden Haws, he's done it for most of his BYU career up until this season. I could see a situation where he's not trying to collapse the pocket and get to the quarterback, because that's going to create running lanes for Jalen Daniels to run through. But I could see him two-gapping a little bit in this game, hanging back, maintaining his control, maintaining his presence, and being able to read where the quarterback is going or where the run is going. Because it is more than just Jalen Daniels. Neal at running back is a very special player in his own right, and BYU has to account for both of them. The defensive line is going to be critical in this game, but it's more than it was against Arkansas. Against Arkansas, it was about get to the quarterback at all costs. Against Kansas, BYU needs to get to the quarterback. They need to hit the quarterback. That never goes away, but it's going to require more discipline to keep Daniels contained than it did Jefferson. Jefferson, it's getting to him at all costs. Daniels, it's sitting back. It's maintaining your discipline. It's controlling the edges, and it's reading and reacting to what he does. Make it hard for him to make a decision. Make it hard and confusing to identify what his best path forward is. Because if you give him something, whether it's a short pass, whether it's the deep pass over the top of the safety, or whether it's running lanes up the middle, usually he'll find it and he'll take those things and beat you that way. So BYU's got to do a good job of making it confusing for Daniels. Buy the defense just that extra second to get home by maintaining discipline, maintaining your assignments, and controlling the edges. That's how BYU is going to have to, that's what BYU is going to have to do, I think, in order to control Jalen Daniels and have a chance to keep this win streak rolling on the road in Lawrence. I'm super excited for this game, maybe more excited than I have been for any BYU game in the last couple of years. I am thrilled to play Kansas. I think Kansas is one of the most exciting offenses in the country. While I have questions about their defense, and we'll talk about that later this week, how BYU's offense can maybe exploit some holes, I love their offense. Lance Leipold is creative. He's innovative. And everywhere he has been effective on the offensive side of the ball. Very, very exciting. Jalen Daniels is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Love what Devin Neal brings to the rushing game. This Kansas offense is a ton of fun, and I'm excited to see how Jay Hill adjusts his scheme from beating Arkansas, from containing Arkansas to now containing Jalen Daniels. A lot of similarities, but a lot of crazy, stark differences that are going to make this a completely different concept, a completely different challenge for Jay Hill and the defense, and that is exciting to me. I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Super excited to be in the Big 12, super excited for this Kansas game, and I'm super excited that you guys continue to come here to the Daily Dose. Appreciate you spending some time with me today, and until next time, give them hell.